Hey Wargamers, today the Tao Codex is officially up for pre-order, and with that we've gotten a bunch of glimpses inside the Codex from people that have advanced copies. So today I want to talk about some of that based on information that we've gotten from those advanced copies. Before we do though, I want to say thanks for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and hit subscribe. That way you don't miss any of my upcoming unit reviews, battle reports, or anything else related to the new Tao Codex. Okay, so one of the big issues that I've had since we've started to get this information about the new Codex is what should the commanders look like? How should we use our limited number of commanders wisely, and what should we equip them with? That sort of thing. Like what are the best combos for Warlord traits and signature systems and Septs and everything like that? And there's just so many possibilities here compared to the old way of doing things, which, you know, basically there were very few options, that it's hard to really wrap your brain around. And so today I want to go through those Warlord traits, I want to go through those signature systems, and kind of give my general first impressions on all of those. You know, this is probably going to change significantly over the course of the next couple months, years, or however long this Codex is going to be viable for. But overall, I just kind of want to go through this bit by bit and see what comes out. It's not going to be super formal. It's not going to be super concise. So sit back, relax, and we'll kind of work our way through here. All right, so I'm going to start with the general stuff, beginning with Warlord traits and then moving into signature systems. And then after we get through the generals of both of those, we'll move into the Sept specific stuff. So starting with Warlord traits, the first general Warlord trait is Precision of the Hunter. Allows you to reroll wounds of 1 made for your Warlord against enemy vehicles or monsters. So this seems like it would be a good fit for Longstrike, but of course, because he's a named character, he has a prescribed Warlord trait. So really, this is going to be something that seems to be good on quad fusion commanders, or basically any commander that has a high strength weapon. So I guess you could say, like, if you had an XV8 commander with a bunch of missile pods, you know, this would be a fair trait for them as well. But really, I'm thinking like quad fusion commanders, cold stars with 4 fusion blasters, something like that. This seems like a fairly good trait for. Right. Number 2 is Through Unity Devastation. In each of your shooting phases, pick a unit that is visible to your Warlord until the end of the phase. Each time you make a wound of 6 or greater against that unit from a friendly Sept unit within 6 inches of your Warlord, increase the AAP by 1. This is a trait that Anva has, but really this is going to be something where you want your Warlord to be embedded in a bunch of other units. Otherwise, you know, if he's just by himself, this isn't going to do you any good. So like a quad fusion commander seems like not a good application of this Warlord trait. Instead, I'm thinking, like, if you're bringing an infantry based list, like there's a bunch of fire warriors or pathfinders or whatever, and you have a fireblade in the middle or an ethereal in the middle of all those guys, this is actually a fairly good trait for them. You're going to get a large volume of fire from a bunch of fire warriors surrounded by a bunch of fire warriors around a fireblade, and you're going to need volume of fire to really get your procs off of this Warlord trait. So yeah, I mean, I think like any infantry Warlord would be a good fit for this Warlord trait. Number 3 is A Ghost Walks Amongst Us. Instead of advancing a random number of inches, you always advance 6. This used to be my favorite Warlord trait back in the old Codex because it'll allow you to do your thrust moves for 3d6 inches, which obviously aren't a thing anymore, but you know, I still think that this is a valuable trait, even though it's completely different. Really, you'd want to use it on any Warlord commander because their Sept trait allows them to advance and not take penalties on assault weapons, and then treat rapid fire weapons as assault weapons if they advanced. So if you are able to maximize that and really get a fair amount of distance out of that, that seems like a good fit. So any Warlord commander would be good here. Probably not a cold star, because a cold star suit, just because they automatically advance 20 inches. So I'm not sure how these two would interact if you put this on a cold star, but I would think that probably not well, or maybe you would, yeah, I don't think you would advance 26 inches because it's not add 6 to your roll, it's just advanced 6. So probably stay away from the Cold Star suit with this one. But overall, any other Viewer Law commander would be good for this. Like maybe again a Quad Fusion commander, or yeah, any commander really would be fine. All right, this next one I really don't have a good idea of what it would be useful for. It seems like it's kind of bottom of the barrel, but through Boldness Victory, if your Warlord is within 12 inches of an enemy unit at the start of your shooting phase, you can re-roll failed hit rolls made for your Warlord until the end of the phase. So you have to be close to the unit. So you have to have somebody that's going to be close to an enemy unit, which again is probably going to be a commander. Your Fireblades, your Ethereals, you're not going to want those to be, you know, out in the open and close to an enemy unit. So this isn't a huge benefit to them, and they're also not going to be really shooting at anything worthwhile, especially in the case of the Ethereal. So yeah, we're talking about commanders here, but they're hitting on 2s. So yeah, I mean, you're going to re-roll your 1s, which is nice, but you probably are going to have that benefit from marker lights. So this seems like a really pointless Warlord trait, and I don't know what you would actually use it for and get any type of meaningful benefit out of it. The 5th Warlord trait is Exemplar of Cao Yun. It allows you to re-roll misses when your Warlord doesn't move. So this would be good on any type of commander that's going to be remaining stationary. Yes, you could use it on like a Cadre Fireblade to make sure you're hitting your marker lights, but really I would think like an XV8 missile side commander, again, is kind of the archetype that I'm thinking about here for these things that require you not to be moving. An XV8 missile commander is going to be, you know, an XV8 suit with 4 missile pods, and that's not really a very efficient loadout, but if you are going to be taking one, these are the types of Warlord traits you're going to want to be taking, because they're not going to be up close and personal with a lot of enemy units. They're going to be sitting back and, you know, hopefully not moving a whole lot. They're going to be a gun line, gun battery commander. So this Warlord trait would work out fine because they're not going to be moving, but again, they're hitting on 2s. So yeah, I mean, any type of command unit that would be taking a Warlord trait is going to be hitting on 2s pretty much. So I don't see the huge benefit of these reroll misses Warlord traits on commanders or like on any HQ unit. It just doesn't really make sense to me. Number 6 is Exemplar of the Manka. Warlord can advance and shoot as if they had not advanced this turn. Basically, any non-Viorla Cold Star commander would be awesome because they can, you know, advance and shoot as normal. The reason why I say non-Viorla is because Viorla Sept trait allows this ability already. So for certain weapons, right? Like if they're taking plasma rifles, this is a benefit. But for most crisis weapons, those are going to be assault, and so for Viorla, they are going to get that benefit anyway. So yeah, Exemplar Manka seems like a cool choice for pretty much any Cold Star commander, because you're really going to be able to leverage that extra advanced movement. Okay, so let's move on to the signature systems, starting with the PureTide Engram Neuro chip. This is the signature system that was presented in Chapter Approved. It's back, it's exactly the same, and I think this is actually a fairly good go-to signature system if nothing else really fits what you're trying to do with your commander or with, you know, some other HQ unit. Because keep in mind, all of these signature systems have to go on a character. They can't go on just a standard crisis suit or anything like that. They have to go on a character, so that really limits the number and types of units you can actually put these on. So generally we're going to be talking about commanders, but sometimes we're going to be talking about Fireblades or Ethereals as well. Overall, a very small number of units can actually use these. So PureTide Engram Neuro chip is a good option if you are just trying to, if you just are going to be taking something and nothing else seems good, go with the PureTide Engram Neuro chip. It's going to give you a chance at getting some command points back, which are needed. There's plenty of stratagems in the Codex that look like they are deserving of your command points, and so if you're able to prolong that store of command points you have from your army list, that's always a good thing. So really, PureTide Engram Neuro chip is a pretty decent signature system, and including it is not going to be a bad idea in most situations. So it makes enemies within 6 inches subtract 1 from their leadership. which isn't a huge deal. It would be good against like horde armies where you know, every reduction in leadership can mean another guy dead or something, or maybe even specialist, probably even more for specialist units, I guess, like elite armies where, you know, you need to get that one extra leadership down just to be able to really make a difference, and if you're going to see anything dead. But like in those situations, wouldn't you be better served by just picking a better weapon or something? So this makes enemy units within 6 inches of the bearer subtract 1 from their leadership. That means that it's going to be really good against pretty much anything that has a high leadership that you're just barely not killing enough stuff to get another guy out of there for morale. So like leadership 8 units, this is going to be pretty nice because it's going to bring them down to 7. And then if you kill a couple of guys, you're going to actually have a fair chance at you know, making something happen. Or leadership 7, it's going to be better for them too. But like really, this is going to be good against small units that you're otherwise not going to be able to actually inflict enough damage on to make morale matter for them. And but it's very situational. The solid image projection unit is something you can put on an ethereal on a hover drone, and basically allows you to move the ethereal 3 inches before the charge is made, if he's made the target of a charge. So this is awesome because it basically tricks your opponent into charging your ethereal, but you know, theoretically they would know that this is a possibility, right? So they're going to know that you're going to move your ethereal back 3 inches when they charge, so they would have to account for that. But otherwise, you have to essentially use the ethereal as bait and trick them into charging the ethereal, move him back far enough that they fail the charge, but then you still get all your overwatch in. So like in a Tau Sept army, this is going to be pretty good, but you have to use your ethereal as bait. And he'll probably just like die from shooting, because if you're using him as bait, he's going to be closer than the rest of the gun line. So it seems really hard to use. It's an awesome idea. I wish you could give it to anyone and not just ethereals on hover drones, because being able to move back 3 inches after a charge has been declared is valuable. But it just seems like you have to set up this trap that's bound to fail. So like you put the ethereal out, he just gets shot to death, and then no one charges anyway, or they charge your gun line and like you're in a worse position than you were to begin with. So yeah, it just doesn't seem that great to me. The next one is the seismic destabilizer unit. Essentially, your warlord targets a building or a unit of infantry claiming cover within 12 inches. If it's a building, it suffers D3 wounds. If it's an infantry squad, you roll a die for each member of the squad, and on a 6, they suffer a mortal wound. Super cool. I love the idea that this like basically makes buildings collapse around guys. And it's nice because those really pesky like Marine or Death Guard or Primaris units that are in ruins and getting like a 2-up save plus whatever, they're hard to dislodge. And so this gives you a way to at least clear some of them out, which is valuable. But it requires, again, it's very situational that your warlord the bearer of the unit of the destabilizer has to be within 12 inches of them, which is risky. And then you have to assume that there's going to be this type of situation where there's an infantry unit claiming cover and you really want to use this, and there's going to be enough of them that you're actually going to have a fairly good chance of rolling at least a couple 6s. So, I mean, I think it's good, and if you are really familiar with the type of board you're going to be playing on, it can be valuable, and if you know the type of army you're going to be going against, even better. But like in a tournament situation, you can't always count on these things being present, or the armies you're going up against to really put themselves in a situation like this. So I like it. I think it's good, but I probably wouldn't bring it to a tournament for that reason. The Supernova launcher is a upgraded airburst fragmentation projector, 18 inches, assault D6, strength 6, -2 AP, 2 damage and can fire out of line of sight. So that's actually not bad. That's a pretty decent weapon. But if I'm going to think about comparing this to, you know, some other weapons like a fusion blaster or something, those are probably going to be a better choice. I like this, but it's a random number of shots is the problem. And that's why I think like something like Fusion Blaster might actually be better, is because, you know, if you're rolling Assault D6, it's all over the place. You never know what you're really going to get. And so maybe if you're playing Borkan and you're able to re-roll the number of shots that you get using a stratagem, this could be worth it. But that's a pretty niche situation. And yeah, like it could be great. It could also be, you know, pretty subpar. So I probably wouldn't take it because of that random factor. But if you're able to control that using Borkan stratagems, you know, sure, you could probably give it a shot, and it probably will work out for you at least sometimes. So it's cool. All right, let's move on to the Sept specific stuff. Starting with the homeworld, starting with Tao, they have the Warlord trait Strength of Belief. This is the trait that Longstrike has instead of the one that we talked about earlier. For you roll a d6 for each mortal wound, and on a 5 or greater, you ignore it. So it's a feel no pain for mortal wounds only, which, like, that kind of, like, that's good against mortal wounds if you're going up against mortal wounds like a smite spam army, which isn't going to be a thing anymore, really. That's good, but yeah, like, generally I just don't see it being something that's super relevant. Like, if you're running into a problem where your commander keeps getting shot by mortal wounds, then go for it. But otherwise, like, this seems pretty situational and not something that you're going to actually use that much. For vectored, their signature system is vectored maneuvering thrusters, and you have to put it on a battle suit, obviously. And it allows you to jump, shoot, jump with a 6-inch thrust move, which is awesome. So if I was playing Tau, I'd definitely take this signature system, I think, just because it's pretty darn awesome. It allows you to put take a Cold Star commander, take a Quad Fusion commander, like any commander can benefit from this because he's going to be able to duck behind cover, get out of line of sight, get behind shielded or screening units, you name it, get out of range of charging. Like, this is an awesome signature system. I'm glad that it's here, and if I was taking Tau, I would definitely take it. But like, a Quad Fusion commander seems like a really easy application for this because he can get in close and then get far away. But really, or like a flamer suit or anything like that seems good. I wouldn't put flamers on a commander anyway, but if you were, you know, that's an option. Okay, moving on to Vior Law. They have, oh yeah, so their Warlord trait is if your Warlord has Master of War, Volley Fire or Failure is not an option, which is like every Warlord. The range of that ability is increased to 9 inches, and you get an additional command point for being Battle Forged. So Anshi has this ability, and yeah, like, again, I like having more CPs, that's nice, but like having a 3-inch additional range on my buff ability, like generally the Warlord that I have deployed is surrounded pretty evenly by units, and having that 3-inch additional range doesn't make any difference at all, because like the units that are within range within 6 inches are also going to be within range at 9 inches. So, you know, of course it gives you more flexibility. You don't have to be as tight. You can take up more board space, which is nice. But like, that seems like a pretty minor benefit overall. Their signature system is the Thermoneutronic Projector. It replaces a Flamer and makes it a Assault D6, Strength 6, AP -1, 2 damage Flamer, which it's like basically a little mini Ivara, which I love Ivaras, and I think this is a very cool signature system. So yeah, I would take this. I put it on a Cold Star. I think, like, you know, for most weapons that I like, I would put on a Cold Star because Cold Stars are cool and maneuverable, and that's what we want. So yeah, this is cool. I like this one. Dalith, they have the Gunship Diplomat, which if you saw my preview video, you know I think is a awesome name for a Warlord trait, but it's overall like a pretty subpar Warlord trait. Means crew and Vespid gain the greater good ability if they're within 12 inches. Again, if you're relying on Vespid or crew to save you, if you are being charged, you probably want to rethink your strategy. It's not necessarily a winning combo. They do have a pretty, so their signature system is the dynamic mirror field, and it's -1 to hit them. It would be cool if you could take on Long Strike or like Ovesa if it was still around. He was still around, but he's not. So really all your HQ units are benefiting from commander targeting rules. So they shouldn't be being shot anyway. So the -1 to hit is going to be wasted in most shooting phases unless they get put out in the open. Then you're going to want it, but just try not to make that happen, I guess, is kind of the point there. So I don't see like a huge benefit on taking this on normal commanders, which is too bad. Yeah, and you can't take it on Farsight or Shadow Sun, which I think would be fairly good options because they're going to be up in front more. But yeah, it just doesn't seem like something you're actually going to get that much use out of. Guys, again, I'm sorry about the pronunciation here. Sakia, however you want to pronounce that. Their Warlord trait is that units within 6 inches reduce the number of models that flee by 1. That's good because they also have higher leadership. So, you know, that's fine. That's making you really resilient or really resistant to morale. But overall, like, I'm probably not going to be building my units to be in a place where morale is really going to make a difference. Either they're going to be dead or they're going to not be dead. And so that difference in morale is not necessarily material. Their signature system is Grav Inhibitor Field, subtract 2 inches from charge distance. I don't know who you're going to put this on, because again, you basically run into the same issue that you have with the Ethereal, but the Ethereal trait, where the solid image projector trait, but it's worse. It's only 2 inches instead of 3 inches, and you have to make your Warlord a subject of a charge. Like, it's a good defensive thing. I would consider taking it, but ideally, I just don't want to be in that position in the first place, so I'm probably not going to take this as a signature system. All right, Borkan, their Warlord trait is for each hit roll of a 6 or greater, add 1 to the wound roll for that attack. I think like a Cold Star with a bunch of burst cannons and a high output burst cannon, this could be really nice. You're going to basically be able to take out anything you want a little bit easier, especially if we're talking about like taking a bunch of burst cannon shots against a vehicle. Instead of needing 5s, you're needing 4s now, and that's pretty darn good. Granted, it's only on a 6, but still, you're going to have enough shots with a burst cannon loadout that you're going to get at least a few of those. So that's not bad at all. Especially, one of the things that I'm unclear about still is whether or not Cold Stars can take cyclic ion blasters. I've heard conflicting reports, so I'll have to wait till I actually get the Codex. If they can, then this would be a nice match for them too, because they have a fairly good number of shots as well. All right, their relic or their signature system is the Plasma Accelerator Rifle. It's a beefed up plasma rifle, range 30 inches, strength 7, -3 AP, and 2 damage. It's cheaper than a Fusion Blaster, but on average, I still think a Fusion Blaster is going to do a better job, because at range 18 inches, well, I guess because it's Borkan, the range is really 36 inches on this. So at 18 inches, you can either fire 1 Fusion Blaster shot or 2 of these shots. And so you're getting 1 more strength, 1 more AP, and then on average, you're getting about the same damage output. So I guess it's like a cheaper version of a Fusion Blaster, you know, all else equal. So that's good, but I would rather take one of these other options instead. Like, I'd rather have a PureTide Engram Neurochip instead of this and just take a Fusion Blaster. So I think it's fine, but it's not necessarily the most efficient choice if you look at the numbers. And then finally, we get to my guys. We get to the Farside Enclaves. Their Warlord trait is Heroic Intervention for within 6 inches, and they can reroll failed hits in combat if they are charging or have been charged or performed a Heroic Intervention. That is really nice, especially on Farside, who has it inherently, but like if you're going to take a Cold Star Commander with the signature system, which is Fusion Blades, replaces 2 Fusion Blasters to provide 2 Strength 8, AP -4, D6 damage combat attacks, so you basically are able to fire Fusion Blasters in close combat. That's pretty nice. I think if you're going to be bringing something with Fusion Blades, you want to take this Warlord trait if your commander is going to be hanging around like a bunch of crisis suits or something. Otherwise, if he's going to be more of a solo player, then probably go with something like the Monka Warlord trait instead. That just seems like that might be a better fit because it allows him to really capitalize again on that movement, and that's probably going to be more important than him getting a couple punches in close combat, which again we don't really want to be in. But if you're Farsight with Fusion Blades, you know, there are worse things that could happen. You could be not Farsight and not have Fusion Blades in close combat. So yeah, but yeah, so these are my general first impressions. Like I said, this was a very casual, very meandering way through it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What is your ideal commander loadout in the new Codex? Again, trying to figure this out myself, so I'd love to hear what you guys think. Thanks for watching, and of course, happy wargaming. Hey everyone, this video was made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you like this video, consider heading on over to Patreon and joining our community there. Special thanks to NoExcusesPanda, Jordan, Paul Leuders, Giovanni DiMaggio, TauOswell, Deverson, Jared Egeler, Nick Steele, Max Harrison, and Youhei Penguin.